His outrageous comment regarding Vladimir Putin, but we might as well talk about Democrats. Quote, want open borders and don't mind crime. That would be obviously Chuck Schumer is shocked to Bill de Blasio, who, though preceded by an independent and a Republican, is now presiding over the safest New York City since the 1950s.
Right. Well, you know, his comments are just absurd. They're not based on any fact at all. They're totally divisive, and they don't mean anything. Democrats propose, say, let's take our Gang of Eight bill. Bipartisan, 4 Democrats, 4 Republicans. We put in that bill, every Democrat voted for it, $40 billion on the border. More people on the border than we've ever had before. Drones, which are so good they can tell the difference between a deer and a person crossing the border. Sensors. It was the toughest border measure ever done, far more effective than any wall.
Why didn't that pass?
And it didn't pass. It passed the Senate with 69 votes. And then the hard right Tea Party, which Donald Trump seems to embrace in the House, told Paul Ryan he'd be dead meat as Speaker if he went for it. So it never went anywhere in the House. That bill, which was balanced, provided a long, difficult but real path to citizenship for the whole 11 million, took care of the dreamers, brought new people in this country for jobs we needed, whether it be PhDs or pick the crops, had overwhelming support. But Donald Trump has chosen to embrace a narrow, anti-immigrant group and has stopped all progress.
So I want to talk about the Putin comments. He said, who would have thought that Putin would be the easiest meeting of all, easier than with our UK allies or our NATO allies? This is, of course, the same Vladimir Putin who invaded Crimea, who invaded Georgia, whose fingerprints are all over the poisoning of a British citizen and the killing of a British citizen on British soil. And apologies for none of that whatsoever.
Let alone our elections.
What is your position on the President of the United States suggesting that he's got the easiest relationship with Vladimir Putin?
You know, everyone wonders why the president is so nice to this scoundrel, this bully, this breaker of so many international laws and human rights. One wonders about that, and is it related to the Russia investigation and everything else? It's a disgrace. And I got to tell you something, Joe. I am really worried about the president sitting alone in a room with Vladimir Putin. When he sat in a room with Xi, when he sat in a room with Kim Jong-un, no good came of any of that. I'm worried that the word on the president's lips would be da, yes, to anything that Putin says. So I don't think he should be in the room alone with him, and I hope the people around him will try to argue against him being there, because you never know what he'll promise Putin.
Yeah, by the way, Mike, H.R. McMaster quoted while he was still in the White House saying, why does this guy think he can be Putin's friend? Why would anybody want to be Putin's friend?
Yeah,
that's right.
And
that's right.
Senator Schumer raises a legitimate issue. I mean, the President of the United States in a room alone with Vladimir Putin without even a note taker, a standard if meetings between heads of state, no note taker here. But on another topic, Senator, the elections, off-year elections, a little more than 90 days away. What is the Democrats' rejoinder or reply to the president's very simple statement? He just made it again. Don't come to this country illegally. It's not a good thing. That resonates, I think, out in the country. What's the Democrats' reply to that?
Our response is we should pass something close to comprehensive immigration reform. When you lay out what was in that bill, and we can modify it to adopt it to the new times, 78% of the American people, a majority of Republicans, are for it. There is a path to citizenship, you know, which the right wing, Rush Limbaugh, calls amnesty, but those 11 million would have to work, pay back taxes, pay a fine, admit wrongdoing, learn English, and go to the back of the line before they became citizens. It's overwhelmingly popular. We can solve this problem, but the president chooses to make it a political issue. I dare say it's not going to be as successful as he thinks. When the governor of Virginia, the candidate, Gillespie, tried it, it didn't work in Virginia. We are finding throughout the country people care far more about their health care that President Trump is taking away than this issue. They care about this issue. They want strong borders, but they don't really believe what Trump just always says rhetorically, except his small base. His base is shrinking. The amount of Republicans is shrinking. They still like him, but that's not enough to win elections.
Susan Del Percio.
Senator, you just mentioned health care, and I'd like to bring it back to New York, your home state. As we know through aggressive reporting, we have seen hundreds of children exposed to lead paint in New York City Housing Authority projects. The mayor of de Blasio, a fellow Democrat of yours, has basically been found out one lie after the next. Today, we have 4 Democratic members of Congress from New York saying they want federal intervention. What do you have to say about this problem, and what solutions can you offer at the federal level?
It is just awful that these young children imbibe lead by gnawing on windowsills or whatever else from these old buildings which had the paint that came in before lead was abolished. And we should do everything we can to help these kids. We should do everything we can to get the lead out of New York public housing.
Do you hold Mayor de Blasio responsible, though, at this point?
Well, look, at this point, I'm not going to just point fingers of blame. I'm going to say, let's solve this problem. It's been a very long time in the making. I tried to get money at the federal level to undo a lot of lead stuff, and I was thwarted by some of our colleagues on the other side of the aisle. I was helped by some. We should just be all hands on deck to solve this problem quickly.
All right, Senator Chuck Schumer, thank you. Thanks for rolling with us.
Yeah, thank you for staying with us. We greatly appreciate it.
No gym. You know what's on in the gym every morning, even with Democrats and Republicans on all those TVs, MSNBC, your show. Even our Republican friends watch it.
That's great to know. It gives it gives them, you know, if they get on the bike, they're angry. They get to burn off some of that anger.
It's great to have you on.
So really quickly, before you go, it's an incredible race in the AL East. Of course, right now the Sox are up by 3, but it could be the Yankees up by 3 at the end of August. What I mean, this is about as good as it gets.
Yeah, it is. These are 2 of the greatest teams I have ever seen. And thank God my Yankees, instead of drafting 30-year-olds and paying them $10 million, now have a young group that they brought up through the ranks. I once told Mr. Steinbrenner, the old man, not Hal. Hal's doing a great job. And so is the old man. But I told him, when you have all these, if you have a bunch of 30-year-old millionaires on the field, you'll never win the series because they're not a team.
Yeah.
So go Yankees. But it's a great, I admire the Red Sox. I hate them and I admire them at the same time.
Okay. Well, it's sort of like,
I hate the Yankees.
Philip, thank you.
Admire them, though. And
Schumer.
they're a fun team.
Poor Chuck Schumer. We're not even going to get into the New York football Giants.
No. Thank you, Senator, so much. So thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.